Radio Show. Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. A big welcome to our global audience. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is Hot Topic. We are going to be talking about electric vehicles, everything that we need to know about what's going on in the industry today, as well as the future of the industry. We have an entrepreneur who is an expert in this area. His name is Rue Phillips, joining us from California. Let's welcome Rue to the program. Hello, Rue.
Hello, Dr. JACALYN. Thanks for having me. I heard a lot about your show. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. And this is really a very hot topic. And you have people on both sides of the line about whether or not this is the way to go. And people are diehard about it. So I personally am very open and interested to learn more. You are really a serial entrepreneur and you've got an extensive background. You also have your own podcast, EV Chat, and you are really someone who is open to helping others as well. So, Rue, I'd like to start a little bit. You are president of SkillFusion. What is SkillFusion and what do you do there?
So SkillFusion is a digital learning platform. Basically, what we're using is latest technology to bring individuals to the renewable sector, to the electric vehicle market, wherever they are in their learning capacity. We're opening up new career trends. So SkillFusion is about educating and bringing work-ready individuals to a much-needed electric vehicle infrastructure market.
That sounds fascinating. Thanks for sharing that. How is your industry, how's your organization been impacted in terms of all the different generations that are in the workforce today? I know I'm just about to be 61, frightening, but I grew up with the mindset that it's cradle to grave. You spend your whole life in one industry, and of course, that's not what happened for me. But only 4 jobs in my career. But today, you have people that believe stay a year, stay 2 years. How does that impact what you're doing and what's going on with the industry?
Well, we're seeing the younger generation embracing the electrification, the electric vehicles implementation, if you like. A lot of the old timers like me, now I'll share a story. I've been involved with electric vehicles now for 30 years. 1994, I was in as a contractor with the ZEV mandate, the zero emission vehicle mandate here in California. And basically, that mandate was that by 2012, remember this is 1994, by 2012, there would be 10% of new vehicles on the California highways that would be zero emission. That would be fuel cell, natural gas, or electric vehicles. Well, fuel cell, wasn't anywhere near ready. Natural gas, they tried a little bit of it, but for the most part, the auto manufacturers started making electric vehicles according to the ZEV mandate. That was Honda, Ford, GM. I had a beautiful, beautiful GM EV1. It was pretty awesome. So 1994, no one, young or old, was really embracing the electric vehicles. Today's a little different. The younger generation see it coming. They're embracing technology. But the challenges, specifically in our workforce that we'll get into in a little while, the challenge is to get the electrical tradesmen themselves, the people that have been in the industry for decades, to acknowledge that electric vehicles will be part of the future. They are here. The manufacturers are tooling up, and there's a fantastic opportunity and a market for them. So we're out there not just educating the young through SkillFusion, but trying to bring in, the general contractors across the nation.
It's fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing that, Rue. And my father and uncle were actually new car dealers. And I remember way back in the day, there were these huge Lincolns. I mean, they look like boats on wheels, gas guzzlers, right? We've come so far. And so I really embrace technology and the enhancements. I love the electric vehicles, how quiet they are, but they do need service. And I mentioned this to you backstage that we saw in the Northeast. We saw all the people who were stranded because their electric vehicles were out of juice, so to speak. So when we think about how to support as many people as possible having an electric vehicle, what does that look like in terms of bringing on people to learn and be educated to service the vehicles now for 10 years, 20 years from now?
So there has been a lot of bad press, Dr. JACALYN. Obviously change is a little tough for a lot of people. I imagine it was when we went from the horse and cart over to the internal combustion engine, in the early 1900s and such. But yeah, there has been some bad press. But I want to point something out. When you buy an electric car, for the most part, you're going to be charging in your garage. So the car's going to come out full of juice, so to speak. It's going to be fully charged. With an average mile, worst case, it's going to be 150, between 150 and 300-mile range. So the pictures out there of people stranded and they don't have power. I'm not sure, whether those guys are doing long distances or whatever, but there's a heavy play right now to lay public infrastructure so that chargers are pretty much every 5-10 miles on the highways. You'll see them at shopping malls, parking lots, airports, cinemas. They will be everywhere. So when you're charging at home and you get out in your car and you do need a top up, there will be the infrastructure there. It's early days. There's a lot of work being done. Again, SkillFusion is out there bringing the tradesmen in to do this work. But yes, when we see the transition fully, you'll hear that a lot of these stories will disappear because the infrastructure will be in place.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rue. And you are the clean tech entrepreneur. Is your goal to change every person's mind to embrace this type of energy, or is it just, let me just ask you, what is your plan?
My plan, I have a passion, and I have done since I got involved with electric vehicles. I got to say, I come from an electrical contracting family. When I was in my teens, I was forced into being an electrician, if you like, and fixing electric vehicles back in England. They had milk, they call them milk floats. And we were repairing the battery chargers themselves. So I got involved in an early stage, and my point is, I had a passion for renewables. I really wanted to get into something different, and when the electric car was implemented in California in 1994, it was like I was just so excited. People thought I was crazy, actually digging the roads up and putting conduits down for the EV chargers. But you asked about my passion and what my plan is. I moved from electric vehicles over to solar photovoltaic, and I put megawatts of solar in, and then I formed a company called True South Renewables that did operations and maintenance, became the largest O&M company. So I've been involved with the renewable sector. I love tech. I believe that technology and renewables will go hand in hand in the very, very near future. We're already seeing it. People that drive cars like having solar on their roof. They like having battery energy storage. So I think it's the future smart home will be a normal. It will be the norm.
That is very exciting. And to your earlier point, I know here where I live in South Florida, there's a major shopping mall, and you'll see the charging stations. They started out with just a few, and now I think they're on two or three different levels because there's so many people. So, for people who are not aware, an electric vehicle has a battery that gets recharged. What is the duration or the length of time that the battery stays charged, or in your own terminology, how does that work with the battery and the charging?
So it's all done on distance. Basically, how much charge you have in the vehicle is how far the car will go between charges. And most of the new vehicles and the new battery technology out there right now is getting close to 300 miles. You can have some smaller vehicles and cheaper vehicles, with 150 to 200 miles. But a 300-mile range, is expected out of electric vehicles now. You mentioned the batteries, and the batteries are not just made up of one big battery that you would think. It's hundreds of little, kind of like laptop batteries, all in series parallel, so that make up this giant battery pack. We're seeing batteries implemented in the renewable sector way beyond just electric vehicles. They will be as peak demand and supporting power factors for residential homes. We have them. We have big, massive battery banks. Utilities use them for spikes in the demand for electricity from ranges across the United States. So the battery ranges on electric vehicles. Again, I talked about infrastructure. There will be chargers everywhere, so for the most part, you're coming out of your garage or your driveway at home with a pretty much full tank of kilowatt hours.
Wonderful. And in terms of the workforce and training individuals, what type of background does someone need to have to embrace this as an opportunity for themselves?
So SkillFusion is bringing up into the market anyone with a desire to get into the electrical trade. Anyone. So we start using the building blocks, if you like, if you want to be what we call a diagnostic technician, which is not an electrician, but you can do certain components like communications and networking on the EV charger infrastructure, or you can move your career into a full-on apprenticeship and become master electricians within the electric vehicle trade. That's what we're focusing on. So, I mean, obviously, a general knowledge and math is always good to be an electrician. But moreover, I think the one requirement is a passion and a desire to succeed into a career which is being embraced nationwide by the general public.
Thank you, Rue. And I believe you offer certification. What does that look like and how long does it take?
So the class depends on obviously the credential that you're taking. We have a 9-hour class. If you want to go further to one of our alliance partners, EVITP, that's a full-on 40, 50, 60-hour class. But depending on where you want to be in your career, it starts from 9 hours the online. But again, obviously, if you want to be a full-on master electrician within the renewable energy trade, you're going to have to dedicate more of your time. The great news is that while you're getting educated and taking the courses, you can actually be out there working, earning money, repairing EV chargers.
That opens a lot of doors for people. That's really exciting. And I'm
Indeed.
wondering, as we experience climate change, which of course not everyone is on board with that, but for those of us who believe it, and we see that there seems to be more extremes in weather and more volatility, what role, if any, is the federal government and the Biden administration playing in terms of helping with the electric vehicle industry?
So there is the NEVI incentive. In fact, the US government, compared to what other countries are doing all over the world, I believe is doing a fantastic job to support the transition towards a renewable future. Not just in electric vehicles, but in solar and other renewable aspects of where we get our energy from, and our dominance right now on fossil fuels. And I will, we need to look beyond oil and fossil fuels. We have to. There's not an infinite supply. I personally don't think it's just going to run out one year. It's just going to become more difficult and more costly to run in that environment, that power environment that we've been doing for decades and decades. So the U.S. government is implementing a lot of incentives and rebates and tax incentives to hundreds of millions of dollars. It's in the billions to different sectors. So yes, anyone that wants to come in to this sector right now has great support, not just by the demand for like electric vehicles and chargers, but from the feds.
Thank you, Ro. A follow-up question that I have for you is we had someone on, I think from Austria, and we were talking about electric vehicles last year, and he brought up the point about the batteries. So, what actually happens when a battery can no longer be recharged? Is there some amount of time or number of charges and then it's obsolete? And if so, what happens to the battery?
What a great question, Dr. JACALYN. So when the battery becomes no longer desirable is the word, or for the electric vehicle, it doesn't actually just stop working. It becomes less efficient. The range becomes less, and that vehicle obviously is number. It's in the thousands. I think it's somewhere like 10, 12,000 cycles, full cycles before it starts depleting. And that itself is based on the usage of the vehicle. I'm not going to say right now, in 10 years, the battery pack is going to require changing. It might not. It could last for 20, 25, 30 years. It would just not work as good as it would when it's new. What happens to those batteries is interesting. They have a life after EVs. They could serve as backup power for residences. They have a whole number of uses when they get pulled from the electric vehicle.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. And another question I have, because this was brought up before on another show, is what about the impact to the grid, the power grid? That if you're having all these batteries, does that have any impact on what's happening in our homes or electricity otherwise?
That's a great question, Dr. JACALYN. So, imagine, if you will, a cul-de-sac that has 14 houses on this little cul-de-sac, and 10 of those 14 residences decides to take on an electric vehicle, and which is going to require anywhere from a 6 to a 9 kilowatt EV charger. Now, what will happen is you'll be encouraged by a reduced electricity rate for that circuit, for the electric vehicle charger, to charge off-peak at night. So when everyone else is asleep and the demand for power from the utility plant is less, then you will be encouraged to buy electricity for your electric vehicle at a cheaper rate. So everyone's talking about, well, what's going to happen when these tens of thousands of vehicles all start to want to plug in their energy? So that's a number one factor. Number two is we have a technology that's coming on board right now called V2G, vehicle to grid, which is basically a bidirectional function of the electric vehicle that basically can use the battery to triage, if you like, to mitigate peak demands from the utility. So let me give you that example again. Those 14 houses on that little cul-de-sac, 10 of them have bidirectional vehicles that can actually sell energy back to the grid for the next street for the utility on demand. Sounds a little futuristic. That's being in play right now. So your car will not only be a vehicle for your on personal use, but it will be a battery pack that would be part of a microgrid for your whole community.
That's really interesting, Rue. I've never heard that before. So I love to learn. I appreciate you sharing that. What is your stance or your feeling about hybrid vehicles? If someone says, well, I have a hybrid, that's enough. I'm happy with that. What is the difference between a hybrid, for those who don't know, and a truly electric vehicle?
Well, I think those that are, a little uneasy to come over fully to embrace the ZEV, zero emission vehicle, or BEV, battery electric vehicle. Those that are a little queasy, that's like, well, I'm not sure about the range or whatever, then a hybrid may be the way to go. And a hybrid, basically what it is, it's half electric and half gasoline for a car. Meaning that if the battery runs out and you've got fuel in your tank, you will never run out of distance or driving capability for your car. They're not fully ZEV, they're not full on zero emission, but they do contribute, to our quest, if you like, to for a renewable future. So for those that are a little uneasy about electric vehicles, take a look at the plug-in hybrid. I would suggest a plug-in hybrid rather than just a hybrid. A plug-in means that you can actually use the electric supply from the utility to charge the battery. And there is a possibility that you would be driving purely on on the electric vehicle and only kick in the gasoline when the batteries are depleted. So plug-in hybrid electric vehicles are the way to go if you don't want to embrace full-on electric vehicles.
I love that. That's a great segue for people. So here's my next question. If you think about someone who's used to having some kind of gas guzzling car, I mentioned to you that my dad was selling town cars that were huge boats back in the day. And then there was the gas crisis. But if you're used to having a vehicle that is strictly on gasoline or diesel and then moving to an EV, would you say going sort of down that path of maybe going to a hybrid and moving on is the best way to get rid of your withdrawal or your addiction possibly to gasoline?
Well, I think first off, Dr. JACALYN, there's always going to be, the big muscle cars. There's always going to be gasoline engines around there for decades and decades. For the old Cadillacs and such. I'm a big fan of big American cars, being a Brit. So I would hate to see them totally disappear. What I do believe is within the next 20, 30 years, you'll look around you on the freeway, and I believe within your sight, 90+% of the vehicles that you see will be zero or plug-in hybrid. Going again to the transition, I'm a purist as far as the technology is concerned. I'd love to see the zero emission, which is the full-on electric vehicle, because remember, a plug-in hybrid or a hybrid still has gasoline. It's still going to rely somewhat on the infrastructure, the oil infrastructure. So a full adoption, if you like, of electric vehicles is more desirable for a renewable future for our country. For those that are never going to give up on their ICE, that's an internal combustion engine, that's the acronym for it. Absolutely, there'll still be gas stations around there. Maybe the gas stations in the next 20 years will be a combination of fuel pumps and electric vehicle chargers in their masses. I see that happening.
So for our friends who are going through withdrawal there, it's okay. You don't have to panic. I remember,
No.
Rue, I think it was 1986. I could have the year wrong, but I believe that was the year that you had to have that red, that brake light in the back of your car. And
Mm-hmm.
that affected the auto manufacturers. So with moving to a migration like this, how does this impact the auto manufacturers with going from gasoline to electric?
Well, so that's a great question, because those out there that say this will never happen, electric vehicles will never take off because there's no infrastructure. You can't charge them, and they don't go the distance. Well, number one, I would say, as an entrepreneur, to you out there that are even thinking that, go take advantage of that situation. If there are no chargers, find a way to put them in and make money out of doing so. Form a company, form an operations and maintenance company, be an electrical contractor, any way that you can implement yourself into the future markets which are going to be adopted here. You mentioned the auto manufacturers. The auto manufacturers are retooling. They're not waiting on a political climate. In fact, this is not a red or blue situation of whether we go green. It's a red, white, and blue that we find ourselves in for the renewable transition. So the auto manufacturers are retooling. They have plans to go zero. I say zero. Some of them are choosing hydrogen. Not a lot. It's going to be a while before that gets fully adopted and ready. But have a look at there's a list. You can go online, and it's easy to research of which manufacturers are going electric, full on electric, in the next 10 to 20 years. They're embracing it. They're doing it. and we just have to acknowledge it.
I just love what you shared, Rue. Say that again about it's not red, it's not blue, it's about the green and red, white, and blue. What was that?
Yeah, so this isn't a political decision whether we adopt electric vehicles. It's not about Republicans and Democrats whether we go green and adopt renewable. This is a red, white, and blue. It's an American thing that we have to do. Our we have to have an acknowledgement for solar, for geothermal, for natural resources. These are going to create jobs for everyone that wants to embrace that. There will be the old-fashioned guy, like I said, the old-timer electrician that says, "No, I'm going to stay where I am." But the modern home is going to be adopted. There will be, in the next 20, 30 years, when they build homes, there'll be one central clock so that all your clocks don't need resetting. Your microwave will talk to the cloud and tell you when it's broken, maybe even before it's broken. And it will tell you that there's a technician around the corner with the spare part. These are things that are going to happen in our children's and our grandchildren's times. So it's politically. I got involved with it when it was a political situation. I put them in under one political regime. I put them out when the other guys got in, and I put them back in again. And I kept doing this for decades. But right now everyone seems to be on the same par as far as, okay, we need to do something about it.
Rue, I love your passion, your commitment. That's what it takes. And by the way, you mentioned the fact that you're a Brit. We love our friends in the UK. We've got a big following over there. What's the situation like there with the crazy prices that I know a lot of my friends are having a hard time making ends meet? But what's the industry like in the UK for electric vehicles?
Oh my gosh. So I spent a lot of time in the UK. I've got a home out there as well, a little holiday home. And I what I'm seeing is the same story. It's a smaller scale, obviously. It's a way smaller country, but the adoption of infrastructure is the biggest hurdle for the move towards electric vehicles. They are trickling through, and dealerships. You're starting to see one or two electric vehicles in their fleet of new vehicles. But yes, there is. Europe, on the other hand, is now countries like Denmark, Sweden. They're really, really doing well as far as the electrification and adoption towards electric cars. But Britain itself, a little bit slow. A lot of opportunities there, a lot of opportunities for new companies, and we'll see a change. I believe we've got to get out of that political. Is it politics? Is it are we being forced to have electric vehicles? Well, fact is, no, you're not. It's just got to make good sense to you. And personally, I see people that drive electric vehicles, whether you're in the UK or the US, they take pride in the fact that not only are they beautiful to drive, fantastic acceleration when you need it, silent, but moreover that they're doing something for the future of our country and our planet.
Absolutely. It's about protecting Mother Earth and it's about humanity. It's not a red or blue. You're completely right. I agree with you. And we'd love to have you on our show, The United Kingdom News and Culture. That would be a lot of fun. What haven't I asked you today that you'd like to talk about?
I would like to talk a little bit about the entrepreneurship and the opportunities that there are in the renewable market to bring over. Basically, I said that the only objections and hurdles that the renewables are actually getting right now is individuals that don't really know about that change, that transition. or haven't adopted yet. Once again, the only people that I speak to that have a negative connotation towards renewable adoption are people that don't understand that it's going to happen whether they like it or not. It is going to happen. We are going to see a highly technical future. It's not just going to stop at a processor in your home, but we're going to have smart devices that are going to talk to the cloud. And so what I would say is find a way that you can engage yourself in this. And there's a good standard of living, there's a good earnings to be made, and there's a whole plethora of jobs and opportunities that can be had if you want to embrace the market and the trend changes as we go forward.
It's the land of opportunity, that's for sure.
It is
Rue, as
indeed.
we close out, I would love for you to share the best way for people to connect with you. We do have your website on the banner. And who would you like to contact you?
Yes, so contact me if you are if you want to become an entrepreneur, you want to find out how to get into this new market. If you want to find out a little bit more about SkillFusion, about how we transition you based on our technology and our platform into the electric vehicle infrastructure service operations and maintenance and repairs, we can bring you through that. Or if you just like some advice on how we transition into solar, battery energy storage, and electric vehicles, I can be reached on rphillips at skillfusion.com. That's rphillips at skillfusion.com. You can see me on LinkedIn, Rue Phillips, and I also I'm on Facebook all over the place. So a bit of a social media, yeah, too active sometimes. So, but love to hear from you. I also have a podcast for EV Chat. If you want to take a listen to that. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I have a number of people that I want to introduce you to on our platform so that they can have you on their show, because I think this is a really hot topic that needs to be explored and continue to have conversations about. So, Ruth, thank you. You'll be hearing more from me and our team, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, JACALYN. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you again. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to everyone who was watching or listening, whether it's on the live or the replay. We do appreciate you. This is USA Global TV and Radio. You can go to our website, which is usaglobaltv.com. Book your session if you'd like to be a guest, as we are live streaming on 11 platforms right now, plus the audio. We do ask that you go over to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV, and subscribe, because we get real metrics there. So we're going to be signing off for now. Our next show is coming up, and it's The Wise Ones with Mr. Red O'Loughlin, followed by Talking Heads. So we look forward to having you join us then. Bye for now. Take good care.